Welcome to the World Cup Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the west coast of the U.S., Josh Lander, joined by my mate Dan Tracy across the pond. Dan, how are you today, sir?
Very well, thanks. Podcast relations are good after that draw on Friday night, so I think we're all happy and ready for another round of World Cup chat.
Yeah, 1-1. We're both equally disappointed, so I think we just start rioting and destroy public property. That's how it usually works in England. But at any rate, today we're looking at Monday's round of matches. That is day 8 in the World Cup here, and we're going to do our usual work backwards as the best games are saved for the last game of the day, and then work backwards towards the first. As I mentioned, day 8 here. We also have Dan's great articles on thelines.com covering all of these matches and everything that we've talked about so far on these podcasts as well for you guys. Also have the odds finder tool on there. A lot of U.S. sportsbooks offering World Cup odds. Want to make sure that you're getting the best value back on all the bets that you might make this World Cup. Dan, let's go ahead and get into that first match. It's a good one. Portugal and Uruguay. That'll be the late game. Portugal minus 105 on the three-way money line there. The draw plus 240. Uruguay plus 310 to pull out a victory in this one. I'll be fully transparent based on some of the stuff that we've talked about at thelines.com and our sister site as well, talking about some of the odds here. Uruguay has been a team that's been picked as value bet there to win the group and make it decently far within the round after the round of 16 as well. So plus 310 for them feels very nice for if you feel confident in them that they would have to at least tie this game, if not win it, to feel good about winning that group for sure. So I guess, where do you sit on this one? I think that Uruguay is going to be bringing it and not really sitting back too conservatively, which leads me to feel pretty confident about some goals. But where's your first starting point for value in this match?
I'd go with Portugal and both teams to score. So I know Uruguay didn't score in their first game. They were unlucky not to. Yeah. But when you consider the players they've got, the likes of Darwin Núñez, Luis Suarez, even Edison Cavani, he's still a threat when need be. They've got enough Arsenal there to cause Portugal problems. And the fact that Portugal shipped 2 to Ghana makes you think, actually, there's not a sort of robust defence there, even though the likes of Ruben Diaz and João Cancelo at the back, There's still a little bit of uncertainty there. So whether Uruguay can truly land a glove on Portugal and knock them out of this fixture, I'm not too sure. So you're right that it's a decent price at plus 320 for Uruguay, but at the same time, it's probably plus 320 for good reason. So I am going to go with the Portugal win and both teams to score at plus 350. And also Cristiano Ronaldo to score first at plus 400, because really it's the Ronaldo show, isn't it, Portugal? They've got a lot of options, but everything seems to circle back to the former Manchester United star now. So if you're looking for increased value, obviously there's always the to score any time pick. But when it comes to Ronaldo, he scored first against Ghana, so why not try it again at plus 400?
Yeah, I think there were a few chances for him in that last match as well that you could have felt good about. You would have been obviously coming up short for him to score a goal, but I think for him to do that in this next game, I also like João Felix. I think he's getting a lot of. I don't know why he's getting undervalued to the degree that he is. He caused a lot of problems for Ghana in that first game, as we saw. He's plus 280 anytime to score as well, and it's really going to come from one of those 3 attacking players for Portugal that you can feel good about between Ronaldo and João Felix. Feeling really, really good about both of them. And then, as you mentioned, there's a ton of options there for the Uruguay team there to feel good about some goals coming in from somewhere. So I love that anytime, both teams to score. The over market gets value at 2.5, 3 goals. If you do feel like Portugal is going to win and they're going to, both teams score, now you're looking at least 3 goals in this game. So you can feel pretty good about the over according to that game theory, Dan, which I like your game theory, and I think you found the best way to bet that and get value back for that, for Portugal winning and both teams scoring. Again, I would feel you can also be somewhat conservative and add on to that idea with over 2.5 goals, as that would have to be the case if our prediction were to come correct. As I said, I have a rooting interest, so I'll definitely be rooting for the Uruguayans to pull this out. But Portugal looked good when they needed to, but as you said, shaky in the defense. So I think there's some value to be found there. So next game that we'll be looking at here on that Saturday, Dan, is a pretty good one as well. Brazil, Switzerland, and this is the probably the biggest test for the Brazilians, I would say, in the group stage after they've were able to take care of Serbia. As Switzerland now, they won their game 1-0 and are at plus 600 on the 3-way money line to beat the Brazilians, who ended up looking super strong. Minus 205 for them, plus 330 is the draw. it kind of seems like maybe they opened things up for themselves, the Brazilians, after they found ways to score beautifully so in the second half in that first match. Switzerland will also, I think, play a similar style to the Serbians in terms of trying to make sure that they don't lose 4 or 5 to nothing and maybe squeak out a goal if they can, but just try to keep the ball away from the Brazilians as much as possible, if possible. Not sure they'll have that much success. So where's the first place you start trying to bet on this one?
Well, I looked at the history guide, and Brazil and Switzerland have only ever drawn when they meet in the World Cup. Admittedly, it's only twice, but they did meet 4 years ago and they drew 1-1. Yep. So it's a limited sample, but it gives you something to latch onto. And when you consider that Neymar is now out injured, it might just tilt the balance towards a draw. I'm not saying it will be a draw, but I wouldn't be betting on Brazil on their own to win. There's no value in that at all. So with the element of risk and a slight touch of history, it makes you think, actually, there might be another route to go down. So with Switzerland being so defensively compact, shall we say, they didn't concede to Cameroon. They rarely concede goals. They're such a pragmatic team that I feel it could be Brazil and under 2.5 goals. So anything in the 1-0, 2-0 bracket for Brazil as a win is probably where to go. You can get that at plus 260 at the moment, which sounds about right. Sounds about a fair price in terms of value. If you do want the draw, as you say, it's about plus 330. Might be worth a sniff because you don't know about whether Switzerland can get Brazil's number again. But again, we're working with a very limited sample of 2 matches, and one of those was 60 years ago, so I wouldn't read too much into it. And perhaps Richarlison. Now, he scored 2 against Serbia. You can get plus 1,400 for him to do the same against Switzerland. Now, with no Neymar, it's going to be even more focus on the Tottenham forward. So I guess, the spotlight is ready to be shone on him. He's not quite a dark horse when it comes to Brazil and their goal-scoring aptitude, but he's kind of finding more favour now with Neymar's injury. So why not sort of put your last $5 on him to get another brace of goals?
A brace of goals. Yeah, you could. It's an interesting, theory here about Neymar. We have a saying on the NBA podcast that we do with Nate: stars out, bets up. So when a star is out, a team usually comes together to sort of fill that gap with their sort of team chemistry and other players that step in, especially when you have a good team with and as stacked of a team and deep of a team, especially in the attacking as you do for Brazil. I hear your theory there, and I mean, I'm going with goals for Brazil as well. I mean, maybe not 3 or 4, but at least 2, to be honest. Once again, and I think the way that they're playing and the fact that you have some pretty nice odds on Rafinha and Vinicius Jr. as well. You can get plus 250 for Jr. to score at any time. Rafinha's plus 230. I also like them a lot, and I mean Gabriel Jesus is masterful. So you can feel confident betting on him. He's plus 160. All of them. I know there's a lot of them in terms of the players that you feel confident could score in this game for them. So my only thought there to slightly defer with you while still somewhat agreeing with you is to take someone with slightly better juice coming back to you on your bet. But Richarlison put in some absolute beauties there. So I think we can feel good that he's going to be involved in the attack. There will be shots on goal, and that's what you're looking for when you're picking a goal. Is who's reasonably going to be putting shots on goal for you. So let's move on to this next game. Still not, as we said, we're moving earlier in the day. The better games are a little bit later, but South Korea and Ghana showed some spunk there in that last game against Portugal, and I think we all would have still be talking about that goal that would have been if he hadn't slipped from coming back to the keeper. That would have been World Cup history right there for sure, a highlight you would have seen forever. But yeah, I mean, before we even move on to this game, what did you think of the Ghanaian performance against Portugal as they're about to take on South Korea?
Well, it's certainly spirited, wasn't it? I mean, at 3-1 down, the game was as good as over. They found that consolation in the end, but it set up a grandstand finish. Then you have that slip. It could have been a completely different story. So a surprise, really. They gave a good account of themselves, really pushed Portugal. I mean, half-time was 0-0. The second half exploded. So when you look at the odds going into this game, South Korea, you've got plus 220 for the draw on my side of the pond. You've got plus 210 for a Ghana win. I didn't really like the look of South Korea. Heung-min Song, I know he's sort of got that facial injury. He's not quite at 100%, but didn't really do anything. Kind of a lot of expectation was always going to be on his shoulders. He kind of wilted under the limelight, so to say. Yeah. So at plus 145, I know it's plus odds for a South Korea win, but I wouldn't be going in that direction. So to be honest, I'd probably be going for the tie in this one at plus 220. I can't see how Ghana kind of get the win because there's, Naki Williams didn't quite sort of cut it on in the game against Portugal. So there's not quite that kind of cutting edge enough to really get the better of South Korea. So I feel these two teams will cancel each other out, and plus 220 is the way to go.
Yeah, it seemed like he was able to sort of be taken out of the game mentally. Obviously, Portugal was eyeing him and chipping at him, and he was falling down a lot in that game, Iñaki. So I think this is one where you're feeling confident in the way that the Ghanaians showed out, and that even if they were to go down a goal and you picked a draw, you'd still be in decent position, as they will not give up until that whistle ends, the final whistle blows. But South Korea does show enough sort of I suppose pace and really the ability to sort of control things, and composure is really the word I'm looking for to describe the South Koreans in a way that it feels draw-y, if you will. So finishing the day and really starting the day, depending on how you look at it when you're waking up to watch these games out here in the U.S., Cameroon and Serbia finishes things off here. A decent three-way market. I mean, Cameroon plus 425 to pull this one out. Not sure you want to be that courageous. Plus 285 for the draw. Serbia minus 145. Not the worst juice if you think they're good enough to hang a few goals on this Cameroonian team. I mean, Serbia did average roughly 2.5 goals in qualifying. You're not going to be as loath to be able to score against that Brazilian team so easily, so I'm not surprised they were unable to do so. Their chances were somewhat few and far between, but they do obviously have the spirited forward up top. I guess, is there a reason to bet up minus 145 on the Serbians, or is there a different way to find value in this game?
I mean, they're going to have to do a lot better in attack. I know it's the Brazil defence, but they didn't even have a shot on target against the Brazilians. That's a bit of a concern, but they've still got Alexander Mitrovic, and he only really needs a chance to get the ball in the net. So if there's still a spark there, it needs to be ignite against the Cameroon's team. So minus 143, not on its own. I'm not sure it's a game which lends itself to lots of entertainment, and because of that, I feel the way to get the value here is a Serbia win and under 2.5 goals. I mean, if you look at under 2.5 goals on its own, I think it's minus 110, exactly. And again, no value in that. So if you fuse the two together, you can get plus 275, and I think that's a great price for what sort of looks like a very obvious bet. And if you want to go with Mitrovic to get the goal or a goal in 90 minutes, you can get that at plus 125. So I feel this could be a rather simple market to tread up. And as I say, just go with Serbia and not a lot of goals to go with it.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with that. I mean, the other thing is, if you do think Serbia is going to win outright, and you take the sort of the minus 0.5 and parlay that with the under 2.5, now you're looking at even a little juicier spiciness there. Because that's my thought exactly as you said. My under 2.5 goals no matter what, but and a Serbia win. But like we said, if you take Serbia the 0.5 there to make sure they get that extra goal on that market, you could get up your juice a smidge there as you say. So just a little bit of counteracting game theory as well. When you have the under 2.5, but them to win by at least a goal, you get a little bit more there. So, but I think we're right on in the same spot there. So it's halftime of this France-Denmark game, Dan. So let's get back to it. That's all the time that we have for this one. Continue to follow along on that page with us. We are coming back to you each and every day of this World Cup. No sleep until December 18th for Dan and myself. So until we see you next, happy betting.